What's above and below the International Space Station, ISS? Have you ever looked up at that reddish dot in the night sky and imagined yourself standing on its rusty surface, gazing back at Earth as just another star? Today we're embarking on an incredible journey to Mars, but not the one you might expect. We're going to explore why colonizing the red planet might actually be impossible, at least for the next century or maybe forever. You know, we've all seen the headlines about Mars colonies by 2030, cities by 2050, maybe even terraforming within our lifetimes. But here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. The latest scientific research from 2024 and 2025 is painting a drastically different picture. And I think you deserve to know the truth about what we're really facing up there. If you're enjoying this cosmic reality check, a quick like really helps the channel reach more space enthusiasts like yourself. Let me start with something that shocked even me when I discovered it. A peer-reviewed study published just months ago in Scientific Reports analyzed SpaceX's Mars plans in exhaustive detail. Their conclusion: even under the most optimistic conditions imaginable, they couldn't find a single feasible Mars mission scenario using current technology. Not one. But why is Mars trying so hard to kill us? Well, imagine standing on Mars right now, just for a moment. Without a spacesuit, your blood would literally begin to boil within seconds. The atmospheric pressure is so low, about 0.6% of Earth's sea level, that the liquids in your body would vaporize instantly. Your saliva would bubble on your tongue, your eyes would desiccate, and you'd lose consciousness in about 15 seconds. Interested, even if we could magically give you a pressure suit, you're still getting bombarded by radiation equivalent to getting a chest X-ray every single day. Mars doesn't have a magnetic field like Earth's protective bubble. Those cosmic rays that our planet deflects, they slam straight into the Martian surface at nearly the speed of light, tearing through DNA like microscopic bullets. NASA's own data shows that astronauts on Mars would absorb 22 millirads of radiation daily. That's 8,000 millirads per year, which is like getting 10,000 chest X-rays annually. For context, that's 2.5 times more radiation than astronauts on the International Space Station receive, and they're already pushing the limits of what we consider acceptable exposure. You might think, okay, we'll just build underground, right? Well, here's where it gets even more challenging. To achieve adequate protection from galactic cosmic rays, you'd need to bury your habitat under at least 3.3 to 5.5 feet of Martian soil. That's like living in a bunker for the rest of your life, never seeing the rust-colored sky except through heavily shielded windows. And speaking of that Martian soil, here's something that even many space enthusiasts don't know. The entire surface of Mars is contaminated with toxic chemicals called perchlorates. These compounds are present at concentrations 50 to 100 times higher than what's considered safe for human exposure. They disrupt your thyroid function, potentially cause cancer, and when combined with Mars's intense UV radiation, they become so toxic they can kill bacteria within minutes. Want to grow potatoes like Matt Damon in The Martian? Think again. Plants can't survive in Martian soil without extensive chemical treatment that takes months to complete. Even then, you'd need completely sealed greenhouses with imported organic materials and artificial lighting that would consume massive amounts of power we don't have. Let's talk about the atmosphere for a moment, or should I say the lack of one. Mars's atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide with only 0.13% oxygen. Earth's atmosphere, for comparison, is 21% oxygen. You could huff and puff all day on Mars and never get a single breath of usable air without life support systems. But surely we could terraform Mars, right? Create a thicker atmosphere. NASA studied this extensively in 2018. And their conclusion was devastating for terraforming dreams. Even if we melted both polar ice caps completely, we'd only double the atmospheric pressure to 1.2% of Earth's. That's still nowhere near enough for humans to survive, and it would take millions of years to achieve even that modest gain. The temperature swings on Mars make Antarctica look like a tropical paradise. We're talking about daily temperature variations exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Average temperatures hover around -81 degrees Fahrenheit, and in winter, it can plummet to -225 degrees. Even on the warmest summer day at the equator, you might see 62 degrees Fahrenheit, but by nightfall, it's back to deadly cold. Now, you might be wondering about your body and Mars' gravity, which is only 38% of Earth's. Sounds fun at first, right? Jumping 3 times higher, feeling lighter? But here's what happens to your body over time in reduced gravity. Your bones start dissolving, literally, Astronauts on the ISS lose 1 to 2% of their bone density every single month. Your muscles atrophy, your heart weakens because it doesn't have to work as hard, and your entire cardiovascular system begins to fail. Recent studies have shown something even more disturbing. In women, radiation exposure in space can reduce ovarian reserves by up to 50%, while men experience decreased testosterone and compromised fertility. We're not just talking about the current generation of colonists here. We're talking about whether humans could even reproduce successfully on Mars. And what about the psychological toll? Imagine being 140 million miles from home, knowing that if something goes wrong, no one can help you. Communication with Earth takes between 4 and 24 minutes one way, depending on orbital positions. That means if you're having a medical emergency, by the time Earth even receives your distress call and sends back advice, you could already be dead. Every 26 months, Mars and Earth line up with the Sun between them, causing complete communication blackouts that can last up to 2 weeks. Imagine being utterly alone, no contact with Earth whatsoever, knowing that if disaster strikes during this window, you're completely on your own. Then there are the dust storms, not the Hollywood kind, where you can dramatically walk through them. These are planet-wide monsters that can last for months, reducing solar panel efficiency by 95% and creating static electricity that fries electronics. The 2018 global dust storm killed NASA's Opportunity rover by burying its solar panels in dust. If that can kill a robot designed for Mars, what chance do humans have? But here's perhaps the most sobering reality check of all: the economics. SpaceX estimates it would cost $200 billion just in passenger fees to transport 1 million colonists to Mars. The total program cost, between $2 and $3 trillion. That's more than the entire GDP of most countries on Earth. Current costs to send a single person to Mars exceed $10 billion. Even with SpaceX's most optimistic projections, they need to reduce that by a factor of 20 to make it remotely feasible. And that's just for transportation. We haven't even talked about the cost of life support systems, habitats, power generation, or the 1,000 other things you need to not die immediately upon arrival. You know what really gets me, though? It's not just the individual challenges. It's that all of these problems hit you simultaneously. You're dealing with radiation while trying to grow food in toxic soil, while your bones are dissolving, while dust storms threaten your power supply, while you slowly go insane from isolation. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while juggling chainsaws during an earthquake. NASA's Mars Sample Return mission really puts this in perspective. They're just trying to bring back a few tubes of Martian dirt, and the mission has ballooned from $3 billion to potentially $11 billion, with the samples not returning until 2040 at the earliest. If it takes that much money and time just to return some soil samples, imagine what it would take to establish a living, breathing colony. So does this mean we should give up on space colonization entirely? Absolutely not. In fact, there are far more promising alternatives that we're already developing. Have you heard of O'Neill cylinders? These are massive rotating space stations that could provide Earth-normal gravity through centrifugal force. No bone loss, no muscle atrophy, and you can control everything about the environment. The Moon is another story entirely. It's only a 3-day journey compared to Mars' 6 to 9 months. You can have real-time conversations with Earth, and if something goes catastrophically wrong, rescue is actually possible. NASA's Artemis program is already laying the groundwork for lunar bases that could serve as stepping stones to the rest of the solar system. Look, I'm not trying to crush anyone's dreams here. I grew up reading Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles and watching every Mars mission with wide-eyed wonder. The dream of becoming a multiplanetary species is beautiful and worth pursuing. But we need to be honest about the challenges we're facing. The scientific consensus is becoming increasingly clear. Small research outposts on Mars might be possible by the 2040s, with crews rotating every few years. But self-sustaining colonies with families, children, and permanent residents? That's not happening this century, and maybe not the next one either. Does it make you wonder what else we might be wrong about when it comes to space exploration? Maybe the answer isn't to spread humanity to hostile worlds that want to kill us. Maybe it's to build new worlds entirely, space habitats where we control every variable, where we can create perfect Earth-like conditions while mining asteroids for resources. I know this might not be what you wanted to hear today. Trust me, I wanted to believe in Mars colonies too. But there's something powerful about confronting reality head-on, about understanding the true scope of the challenge we're facing. And here's the thing that gives me hope. Humans have always been at our best when facing impossible challenges. Maybe the impossibility of Mars colonization will push us to develop technologies we can't even imagine yet. Maybe in trying to solve these problems, we'll discover solutions that make life better here on Earth too. You know, researching this video has given me a deeper appreciation for our pale blue dot. That thin atmosphere that protects us from radiation, that magnetic field that deflects cosmic rays, the perfect temperature range, the abundance of water and oxygen. We live on a miracle, and we don't even realize it most of the time. So what do you think? Are we destined to remain a single-planet species, or will we find a way to slip the surly bonds of Earth, just not in the way we imagined? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what you think about humanity's future in space. Maybe the real lesson here isn't that Mars is impossible. Maybe it's that the universe is teaching us patience, forcing us to develop better technologies, better solutions. Maybe our grandchildren's grandchildren will look back at this era and laugh at how primitive our rockets and life support systems were. But until that day comes, we need to be realistic about what we can and can't do. Mars will wait for us. It's been there for 4.6 billion years. It can wait a few more centuries. In the meantime, let's focus on technologies and destinations that won't require us to literally transform ourselves into a different species just to survive. Thanks for joining me on this journey to the red planet and back. I know it wasn't the optimistic Mars colony video you might have expected, but sometimes the truth is more important than the dream. If you found this reality check valuable, that subscribe button helps me create more evidence-based content about space exploration. And hey, next week we're exploring something much more optimistic, the incredible space habitats that could actually work with technology we'll have in the next 30 years. These are the colonies that might actually happen in your lifetime. Until then, keep looking up at the stars, but maybe appreciate the ground beneath your feet a little more too. Stay curious, space explorers.